Hey, come on up on the show. It doesn't matter if it's a product, a service, an industry, the channel. It just doesn't matter. Business is a widget. The only thing that matters, you know what it is? It's your approach. Coming up today, Jerry MacNamara. The guy still hasn't connected with me on LinkedIn. I'm like knocking on his door. He's what? Huh? What? Hi, I'm Keith Bilous, and this is Live in the Lab. All right. A little bit of weirdness in front of the camera there for anybody who's watching. So I'm like, hey, where's the button? Where's the button? I can't get it going. How did you go viral on TikTok? You were on America's Got Talent. How much did you get paid to be on AGT? Oh, you didn't get paid. Keith and Steve here in Live in the Lab.
You're a great interviewer. I love it.
48 miles, 48 hours. And not just once. You ain't seen nothing yet. I hit 50 last time, and I'm like, yeah, things are a little different than they were 10 years ago. So trust me, things are to keep. You have no time for the BS that much of society seems to put on the table. Why is that? What you're talking about is real right now. There's just no bullshit here, but it's just real. We brought you in with some Marley. I said, Joseph, let's talk music for a second. You said, well, Keith, oldies, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've never talked to a sir before. Why are you a sir? In many ways, we're the same story. I came from nothing. You came from nothing. I think the old saying goes that if you want a trophy, you climb Everest. If you want respect, you climb K2. I've built an AI myself, and it's pretty fascinating when you can have a conversation with yourself with your own knowledge. Have you done that before? Why are we rushing to make these tools if all they're going to do is hurt humanity? Does the world need an Oppenheimer moment with AI?
What a fun show.
All right. I hope you can hear me, because I'm not sure if you can hear my sound or not, but I think you can. Yeah, there you can. Yeah, and I can see Jerry got his thumbs up. Hey, nation, where's my camera? A little distorted. It's been a couple days since I've been here in front of the camera. No, not really. So, Jerry, I don't know if you know this. There we go. Let's look at that right there. I got a morning show. It's true. It's absolutely true. We streamed right here on YouTube, LinkedIn, X. We're making some changes, though. We're going to tease those changes coming up. But I've been on the morning show, but I haven't been here at noon with some nice, long, lengthy conversation with human beings like I'm today with Jerry MacNamara. The guy who says that, you know what? It's not about the product. Nope. It's not about the service. Nope. Not about the industry. Nope. Not about the channel either. It's actually, business is the same thing. It's what your approach is. We all know what my approach is. Yeah. We're going to hear about Jerry's coming up. He's also some dude. Took his kids out of school, and it looks like they traveled around the world. A big adventure guy. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they did. See what they've done, did. What's the word there? I'm not a little sure. Hey, so it's January. Jerry, it's January. What do you do about January? I got to get my audio sorted out. There we go. It's January, halfway through the year. For all those folks that have sat back on January and have failed at their resolutions. Yeah, you're like, oh my God, my January resolution, I'm already thinking about January 25. No, what you want to think about is you want to think about January, which is right now, this month. Come join myself, C Marty Fit, and the AI, GPT-4 Omni, can help change your life. 100 days. 100-day experience. Get a chance to redeclare, renew, re-own those January resolutions. What does it mean? Come check it out. Come knock on my door on LinkedIn. Jerry hasn't. He's still just can't find my invite. That's all right. I had him on the show. He's got a seat in the lab. We say in the lab. Once you're a guest of the lab, you're a friend of the lab, but you got to connect me on LinkedIn first. And I got your email address, so there you go. I got two things. That's the cost, Jerry. That's the cost, man. That's the cost of our relationship. I want to build a relationship with you, not just some transactional situation. Coming up very soon, going to welcome to the lab for a wonderful conversation. I do want to remind you all about one last thing, though, is that we are in the middle of January. And we are in the middle of helping you guys achieve those last goals for the year. So don't forget to tune in for our shows Monday to Friday, mornings in live with myself, C Marty Fit, to take you through that experience. Okay, we are going to welcome in Mr. McNamara. He's helping CEOs accelerate award-winning leader. He's a franchise 500. So the guy's done a few things. I'm looking here at his list, and he grew a franchise company from $5 million to $15 million in 18 months. He transformed a 40-year-old manufacturing company to an impeccable, that's a good choice of words, Jerry, 98% on time delivery rate. He started an internet business that he scaled and later sold, and he led a construction company from $7 million to $30 million in 3 years. And like you said, you know what? He learned that doesn't matter what it is, whatever you're selling, it's all your approach, isn't it, Jerry MacNamara?
It is so nice to meet you, Keith.
What's going on, my friend?
I apologize for
I cannot hear you.
You can't hear me.
Nope, I got no audio from you here. That's all right. We're going to bring Jerry back here in a second. Maybe just refresh your browser.
Yeah.
We're creating great content here today. I was struggling here this morning. Looks like we have a little audio challenge over here too. And I'm getting messages saying it's all working fine. We just have an audio challenge on Jerry's side. Who knows what that is, but he's going to come back here in a second. There he is. Let's see here. Bring him back in here. Jer?
The test environment says it's working.
Nope. No audio. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to go I'm going to throw this on the screen for a second while we sort this out. Hang tight, Jer.
You know what? It's
that saying about achieving anything you put your mind to. I'm a big believer in that kind of thinking because
yeah, I'm wondering if we're having a challenge within the platform itself.
Keith.
No, I can't hear you. So here's what we're going to do, Jer. We are going to hold on. Oh, I got the best idea for you. So I'm going to put this on here's what we're going to do. We'll be right back and we're going to come off. All right. So see if that's working. We're going to see if this is working. There we go. Yeah. Hey, you are witnessing live technical struggles on the air. We're going to see if Jerry's working. Boom. Boom.
How about now?
Jerry?
Yes, sir.
Nope. So here's what we're going to try this.
Crazy.
I'm going to try this. Hang tight. I'm going to do this. Remove me here.
How about now?
All right, we're going to try this again.
Try again.
There we go. I like
Amazing.
that. Hold on. I have something. Or we can just end with this, right? Massive fail for Uncle Keith here today. I don't know what happened, actually. True story. We did the morning show. Nothing changed. I literally left the morning show. I went over there, worked out, had a shower, came back, and now I'm doing this. So I'm not sure what happened in between that time frame of something and the technical difficulties happened there. You know what's funny?
You tripped on a cord. You tripped on a cord, Keith.
That's it, Jer. That's it. You know what I do find funny is people, in my experience, and I probably yours as well, people are scared shiteless of live, doing stuff live because of what just happened. I eat that shit up because that's real life.
It is real life.
Right?
I wish everything went according to plan, but it doesn't.
It's funny because I can turn that travesty into an opportunity now where what I could have done is I could have panicked and I said, okay, Jerry, we're shutting this down, restarting the whole stream. I just paused and I recognized, okay, I think this is what might the issue be. I got two machines going over here. So I went over to this one. I heard you over here. I was like, okay, I think I know what the challenge is over here, but I'm not going to fight with it right now. I'm just going to shut it down, boot something else up, which was my backup plan. Aha, the leadership lesson right now, the backup plan.
So true. So true. I think it's not a matter of not making mistakes. It's being able to be resilient and resourceful when things don't go your way.
That's it. It's exactly. Yeah. Well, listen. So the last couple of days too of my guests we've had a couple rescheduling the last couple of days of live in the lab here. So this is my first day sitting in the lab for this show, the lengthy chat. We're here in the mornings, of course, but I was like, oh man, I was looking forward to today's show. And then technically it went a little sideways on me, but that's all right. You're joining us from where today, Jer?
Jacksonville Beach, Florida.
Oh, nice. Okay. Sure. Nice sunny day down there in Florida. Every day's the same.
It is a beautiful day, and it reminds me of why I left Toronto, because I lived and worked in Toronto for a couple of years. Beautiful place, world-class city, just cold as all get out. One of my life goals is never shovel snow again.
Dude, I live in Winnipeg.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I saw where you live.
Yeah, so you're talking about Toronto being cold, man. You have no idea what cold is actually. Yeah,
that is the truth. I think I was the only person when we went to Breckenridge to ski that was really pissed when it snowed 8 inches, because I was thinking, damn, I got to shovel the driveway to get to the hill.
Dude, so funny. I'm suspecting you experienced cold though. When you took the kids out, you and your wife packed up and you went on what you called an adventure of a lifetime, or kind of I think it was the words you used. That when I reached out to you to have you as a guest, truthfully, was really intrigued by your professional accomplishments. I was really intrigued by that chapter of your life. Just this whole idea of taking the kids out and you and your wife saying, okay, we're going to go and experience the world, explore places, have an adventure. Let's talk about that. Let's kick off our conversation with that. Because from my POV, we learn from as much of that, if not more, about life during that experience.
Oh, totally.
And you probably have through business, your kids have learned, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, Jerry, let's just start the chat there, because you're a proven chaos guy. That trip wasn't just, dude, there was chaos along the way. Let's talk about it.
Amen. When my wife walked in, and she is incredibly successful in her own regard, and she is always up for an adventure. And so when she walked in and said, hey, babe, I have an idea, I didn't know what was going to come out of her mouth next, but usually it's some adventure or cost money, sometimes both. And she said, what about selling the house and traveling the country? And now this was in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah. And whatever, we were 6-7 months in, we sold our house in October 2020. And I said, let me think about that for a second, because that's not what I expected you to say today. And sure enough, one of the things that we talk a lot about is our 2 kids. I have a 12-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. And other than unconditional love, we want to give them education and experiences. And we believe experiences lead to education. And we just followed the rules wherever we were at. But to your point of being cold, we were in Granby, Colorado, which is out near Denver in the hills. Now, I didn't know that was in the valley and would be the coldest spot right near Winter Park, but it was -15 Fahrenheit. So that's like -700 Celsius.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was so cold, Keith, in the house that we were staying in. We were all walking around with our gloves on, our hats, and our jackets, because the house could not get cold. It couldn't get warm. And yes, we definitely experienced cold, but the trip was amazing. And I think sometimes when people say to me, oh, I wish I could do that, the answer is you can. It just involves sometimes some difficult choices, like selling your house or changing your job. But you can do it if you really want to go do it. It's just a matter of what pain are you willing to endure to go chase your goals.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How long were you guys gone, Jerry?
It was almost a year. I think it was about 10 months that we ended. Yeah. So we went This is actually funny. So we left on November 1st, and on November 2nd, I tested positive for COVID for the first time. And being in Florida, COVID didn't really happen here. And so Halloween was a big holiday and a big thing in our neighborhood, which is why we stayed until November 1st. But it was ironic that the first place we went to, I ended up getting COVID and hadn't been sick prior to that. But we traversed the country, man, stayed in places in Denver for a while because my wife and daughter love to snowboard. We went to Hawaii to go thaw out, left our car in Denver for about 4 months when we went back home to Jacksonville for a little bit for some school testing that needed to happen, and then went to Puerto Rico for a while. So it was quite a journey. Let's think, November, I would say we probably finished travel in July is about when we came back, June or July. It was quite a journey. And one of the things that I talked about, people say, what was the hardest part of the journey? And this is going to sound so silly, but if you've ever been over to someone's house and you're trying to be helpful when cooking and you're not quite sure where everything is and you're opening drawers, imagine switching kitchens every 3 or 4 days. And you don't know whether they have a spaghetti pot. You don't know whether they have a frying pan. You don't know what utensils are going to be there. That was the most day-to-day boring friction point of my life, because I felt like I spent half the trip looking in drawers for the spatula, for the knives, for the kitchen towels, which sounds silly, but that was the simple day-to-day frustration.
So it sounds like you Airbnb'd it or VRBO'd it.
Yep. In most places, unless we were staying just for a day where Airbnb doesn't make sense, we stayed in Airbnbs and just depended on where we were at and what was available. And when you don't have an agenda, which we really did not have an agenda, it was my wife deciding all right, let's stop somewhere. And she would pick up, her phone and start looking at Airbnbs for places for us to stop.
So what's shaking Jerry and Maria Villanova joining us from the Philippines today, live with Keith and Jerry, sitting here in the lab having a conversation about Jerry and his wife picking up the kids and saying, hey, we're going on a trip around the States with some stops in Puerto Rico and so forth along the way. So Jerry, the obvious question would be, what was the most enjoyable part? What was the worst enjoyable part? Let's ask the least obvious one, which is, what did you discover along the way? When you reflect upon it now, can't believe that you discovered? What did you learn that was really a surprise to you?
There is too much of a good thing. And I spent, I think it was 191 straight days with my kids. And there's no neighbor to go across the street to. There's no, let's have the cousins over. My wife did have some travel to some sales meetings and other places that she had to go for work. But I spent every minute of every day with my kids, which was both such a blessing. Let me never forget that. But it was also, man, having breaks is a good and healthy thing. And you need to remind yourself of that. I know that from business because I've been in situations where I've worked so hard, I've burned myself out at 26, being on a hospital gurney. And because I'd worked myself into the hospital. But yeah, there is too much of a good thing.
Yeah. So all you parents out there, I got something for you. That's Jerry at the end of 191 days.
It was joyful. Let me just say that. It was joyful. And I love my kids.
Oh, we all love our kids.
I love my kids. I love my kids.
I love how you prefaced it with, Keith, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing.
It is so true. And
they would probably say the same thing, Jer. Honest to God, they probably would reflect as they've aged, or one day will say the same thing to you and mom.
I wonder what they're going to say, right? Rachel and I have talked about this. I wonder what our kids are going to say, that our crazy parents sold our house and we drove and flew all over the country during the middle of a pandemic. I wonder how that's going to age over time.
It says a lot of things about mom and dad, which I think are fantastic. It's not so much what we tell our kids, it's what they observe. So they observe mom and dad doing some pretty courageous things, some pretty cool things, some pretty interesting things, some out of the box things, some of those things that if you took a school of fish, there's a bunch of fish swimming one way and mom and dad went in a different direction. And there's a whole lot of value in that statement. So I teach my kids, there's a sign in our mudroom here, Jerry, where there's a school of silver fish. And right in the middle of these thousands of silverfish, there's a blue one. And it's
Yep.
going the complete opposite direction. It's the last thing you see when you walk out of my house.
I think that's a great one. And yeah, I
Good
think
reminder.
it's a great reminder. So when I think about what did my kids learn, if they're going to ask me later
Yeah.
on, when we did come back, I was amazed at their verbal skills compared to their peers.
Oh, yes, of course. And your maturity, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And when I took Briggs, we were able to get him back into his preschool 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And it was still when you couldn't go into the school. So one of his friends came out, and I was talking to the mom and I was talking to George. And I just realized, oh my gosh, he has gone leaps and bounds above his peers in his verbal skills because he spoke to mom and dad. He spoke to adults. He listened to mom's calls. He listened to my calls with CEOs. And that was both of my kids. They sat on my lap at different times with both of our calls. And that was a surprising thing that I didn't see coming. And I had no context until I came back because it was just natural to me. It's like whenever you lose weight or you gain weight, when you look in the mirror every day, you miss it. But other people see it right away. Holy smokes, Briggs's vocabulary is crazy.
So so 191 days you get home. Do you all go your separate ways for a few minutes, a few hours? Do the kids lock themselves in their rooms for a little bit? Do you lock yourself in a room do you check out for a hotel? Do you go on your own trip? Do you and mom go? Do you send the kids away to grandpa and grandma? What do you do when you get back after? Tell me that moment. Hold on. You're driving in the driveway. Everybody's in the car and you're all just, there's the house, dad. There's the house, mom.
There was no house to come back to.
Oh, so what
right. So think about this, right? We have to come back for testing for Brooklyn. And it's okay. Where do we go? The real estate market's red hot. You can't find real estate at the beach. It's taken off. And so we ended up in an apartment for a year while we figured out, like, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? So we rented an executive furnished apartment for 3 or 4 months until we figured out, okay, let's move into this apartment until we find a house to live in. But yeah, the 100 and some days, that was just the first time I got a break, right? Because friends of ours had come out and Rachel and I went to dinner by ourselves and we just looked at each other. Okay, this is weird.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great opportunity. Rachel and I try and go away once a quarter just to make sure that we still like each other, which is a great reconnection point. And it was like, oh, I still like my wife. This is pretty cool. So that was the first time. Hillary watched the kids for us. She had come out to snowboard and ski.
Mm-hmm.
So I was grateful for that moment of, oh, this is what it feels like to have dinner by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For a long time.
One of the things that we talk about here in the lab and the principles and just this whole idea and concepts is routines. We talked about a lot this morning on our morning show, which is your morning routine largely sets your day. Many would argue the night before when you go to bed sets your routine for the morning.
Yep.
You're constantly moving place to place, wondering what's in the bathroom, what's in the fridge, where you're going grocery shopping. As I listen to you talk, I don't know if I could do it because I'm such a regimented routine person. I guess I could, because I guess you adopt a new one. Jerry, you adopt a new routine of every 3-4 days it changes, or what?
I'm a big believer. You win the mind, you win the day. So I love morning routines. I teach morning routines. When I had kids, that was the first time that my morning routine had to adapt because my wife has to travel for work sometimes. And I learned and realized that a morning routine can take different shapes and forms. It's the elements that go into it. I do typically get up pretty early. Most days I'm up by 4 o'clock. And it includes reading, writing, thinking, meditation, which includes prayer for me. And it just gives me that unfair advantage to start the day. So what I learned was it's not about the location of the routine. It's the ritual of going through the elements that set me up for success.
Man, that's a great soundbite. These elements, what you're saying, are very much, they're locationless. It doesn't matter. And this is exceptional, Jerry, because I get frustrated when people get so caught up on work being attached to a physical space. Now I understand there are still many professions that are attached to a physical space. Listen, if I got the doctor doing surgery on me, I need to be in the hospital for that.
Manufacturing, you're right.
Yeah. But ultimately, still, Irregardless of the physical space, we're still focused on the results. I hope the guy's successful on my surgery. If he has to do it at my house, come to my house to make me live. So you're saying the same thing, Jerry. You have these set of non-negotiables. Doesn't matter where you are in the planet or in the solar system, you got these non-negotiables. That's how they start your day. They start at 4 a.m. And what's the first thing you do when you wake up?
I get up out of bed, which sounds silly, but a lot of people lay there. And I would tell you, if I'm world class in one thing, one thing and one thing only, the awareness and awakeness that I have from the time that I wake up to being out of bed it's like there is no wake up time. It is on. It's like a switch that went on. I could go run a half marathon just jumping out of bed.
This is fascinating because I have this in front of me right now. We were talking about this morning. We're talking about the science about the importance of the first 20 minutes, Jerry, and your brainwave activity. Upon waking, this is straight from GPT-4 Omni, so I'm not making this shit up. Upon waking, your brain transitions from delta waves to the theta waves to alpha waves. During this alpha state, the brain is highly receptive to positive inputs like affirmations, goal setting, and creative thinking. And it sounds like you get out of bed and you go, boom. Your brain, the science of Jerry is just like, yeah, I'm going.
I love my life. I love living. I love the impact that I make. I love the people that I do it with. It's intentional. There's a consciousness that's brought to it. And the reality of it is, for me, when people say, oh, I'm not a morning person. And I say to them, okay, what is the thing that you love to do more than anything else in the world? Like if I gave you, I don't know, if I gave you $5,000 to go on a shopping spree and you love shopping, and I said, the hitch is you have to get up at 5 o'clock to do it, people would be up and excited and ready to go. And so what I have learned is the missing piece is the purpose and the intention of what is it that you're doing with your life that causes you to jump up and get out of bed, to be on a mission, to be purposeful. And for me, I think that's what I've witnessed as a missing piece for people.
This is interesting, Jerry. Allow me to go here with you on this. So I launched this morning show 62 shows ago, and we stream on LinkedIn, YouTube, building our audience daily. And I did it to confirm something I had always suspected, which is when humans get up in the morning, they want to connect. We either turn on our morning radio or the morning TV show, or we turn our phones on to connect on the socials. When you think about the morning, Jerry, it's the last macro cultural place that humans still share. Like it's the only time where we all largely, so in regions of the world, in North America, between 6 and 9, we're all doing kind of the same thing at the same time. And what I mean by that is that it was, because I think we're probably similar in age, macro culture left when Seinfeld left and Friends left, where time mattered at 8 o'clock on Thursday night.
Yep.
Time doesn't really matter now after the morning, because once you get on your day and I get on my day, we consume content differently, schedules really matter differently. But yet in the morning, once those that are in this morning routine state, there's a high likelihood we're going to cross paths between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. Think about that.
I can buy into that. I think for me, I value creation over consumption. And so if you're consuming, it better be for one of two reasons. One is to refresh and renew, or for the ability to have context to create. And so I watch very little television unless I'm sitting down in the evening with my wife to watch a show. Other than that, I want to be a creator in this world, not a consumer. And so sitting and watching shows mindlessly or scrolling through reels mindlessly isn't a great use of time, in my opinion. So I watch people get these dopamine hits that go on, and you end up in this unfulfilled, unintentional, soulless place. You just go, what's my impact? What's my purpose here?
I felt that way when I used to play a lot of video games. Time would go by and then the time was over and I was like, oh, holy smokes, 4 hours just went by. I really didn't do anything. I really feel like I didn't accomplish anything. It felt like I was eating a whole bag of M&Ms or a whole bag of something full of sugar that makes me feel really good along the way. But then when it's done, I just feel like a piece of,
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
Jerry, you mentioned that in the evening, sometimes you and your wife will hang out and spend some time together. So listen, I have something that I can propose to you guys might want to try, which is check this out. Oh, I got the best idea for you. So I want to invite you to take me to bed with you. Yeah, it's a true story. There's a hook. There's some nice music. So what I'm thinking, the best way you can end your day today is you can crawl up into the sack. Yeah, that's the bed. Just for all you thinking in the gutter, or you're all just, nation, gotta get out of the gutter, man. So crawl into bed next to your partner. You say to them, you know what, honey? You know what, partner? And they're going to go, yes, honey. Yes, partner. And you might want to say to them, you know what? We're not going to put on late night television. No, we're not going to put any of that late night stuff on our phones. No, we're going to open up the old YouTuber. Yeah, you know, that little platform that sits on your phone, sits on every device on the planet. And you're going to go into Keith in the Lab. And you're going to look at all these wonderful shows with all these incredible human beings that have come through the lab. And you're going to select one. And I might invite you to check out the one that pops up right in front of you. That says, Stuck in a Hot Tub with Dana Carvey. It'll make you laugh. It'll keep you entertained. And by the time it gets a little bit boring, at the last 57, 58, 59 minute mark, you go to sleep. Because we are here to entertain and inform you. So I invite you to introduce a new routine to your life and take the chief Bapl to bed and close your day off with me. See, and there you go, Jerry. I'm telling you, it's something you guys could have done when you were just hanging out on the road by yourselves.
You are a genius. I love that integration into the show.
Jerry MacNamara, I'm having a lot of fun with you. Why don't we pivot our conversation from the experience you guys had traveling across America, because I probably could talk for hours about that. I want to pivot the chatter to this idea of proven chaos, this idea of taking whatever it is, whether it's a widget, whether it's a service, whatever it is. But it's the approach to how you sell it to drive success, because you have touched different industries, different products, widgets, and services. And Jerry MacNamara seems to have the golden touch. Let's talk about your golden touch, Jerry.
That's not my golden touch. I stand on the shoulders of giants, and
yeah,
I don't believe in the whole notion of a self-made man. I think it's full of baloney. I just have been lucky to be in the right place at the right time with the right opportunity and amazing people. And at the end of the day, what I just learned is if you love your people and you treat them as whole people, and you start there as a core value and a business tenet, which try running a construction company, Keith, and talk about love in that environment. Big burly men get a little uncomfortable about that, but that's okay, right? That's who I am. And I just believe that I've never been the real technical leader in my business. This is probably the one that I've been closest to actually knowing what the heck it is that I'm doing. But when your business is people and leading people, the widget doesn't matter, right? It's how you operationalize it, how you get the right people in the right places. All the things that are tried and true and become trite, it's because it's actually true, right? And for me, it's just all about how do you love your people harder than anyone else and allow them to do their best work, create that predictable environment for them to do their best work.
I'm wondering aloud here, and maybe you can confirm or not for me. So I'm thinking that the construction industry, and you said something which fascinated me. So the construction industry, when my dad was growing up, very different than the workers that are in it today. But yet there's maybe some common threads. Is the worker in the construction industry today a man that comes to the table with more empathy, wants to be treated more human, wants to be treated less militant, wants to be maybe understood and ask questions and maybe ask the whys instead of just, no, Jerry, do this? Maybe some of the conversations yesterday where Jerry, just go do this. Nobody asked why, because you challenged me why is disrespect, right? Where I'm attributing this to almost like this to the coach of the sports athlete. You're coaching an athlete today very differently than you coached an athlete 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I got to think it's the same way in the construction business. And I'm wondering if almost like a superhero power is the gentlemen that are leading in that industry that understand that now are taking their businesses this way. Am I right?
So I think the world has changed, and the people who are not evolving forward with it are not going to succeed. They might succeed if they're my age. I'm 50. I know you're right there too. Mm-hmm. Earlier in my career, it was command and control. I told you what to do and you better have done it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think some of that still exists more in the trades, in manufacturing, but where I'm seeing it particularly is the 18 to 28-year-olds, where
Mhm.
I was just having a conversation with one of my CEOs about this. Their emotional awareness is really sharp. Their ability to articulate feeling less than, feeling left out, imposter syndrome. Now, their ability and their thinking skills to resolve those things, I'm seeing are diminishing because of things like technology, chat GPT are forcing us. We don't really have to think. We just ask questions and we're given answers. We don't have to work for it. And am seeing more emotional awareness for the younger generation, just call it sub 30.
Mhm.
Some of our generation might still lead that way. And I would tell you that their rope to lead that way is very short. And I would question their effectiveness in being able to do that.
Whether it's a widget, whether it's a service, we focus on the humans. Yet people, I think, still maybe struggle with that whole concept.
It's amazing to me how simple and basic it is, right? I call it the 4 C's of leading. You have to create clarity for your people on how they win every day. How do they feel good about the work that they're doing? They better feel challenged by the work that they're doing. Otherwise, they're going to get bored and go do something else.
Mhm.
They have to be comfortable that they have the tools, time, or training to be successful. And the fourth one that I think is the easiest one, yet people get wrong all the time. Do you care about your people? Do you actually give a shit about your people?
Mhm.
To see them be their best, to actually be genuine, to sit down and say, Keith, how are you doing today? How are you really doing today?
Mhm.
Because I knew you had that thing.
Mhm.
And you know what? Your son's soccer game this weekend, how did that go? And it's not just a matter of going through the motions of leading people, it's actually being in the trenches of getting to know your people and making them feel cared about and valued. Because that's when you get the rocket ship. That's when you
Yes.
get the next level effort from people because they reciprocate that care and understanding to be their best. They give a shit to show up to work and be their best.
Mhm.
And that to me is the symbiotic relationship because I recognize that if you're not good at home, you can't be great at work. And if you're not good at work, you can't be great at home. So you have to see people as whole people. And I think in the past, people back down. Oh, I don't want to hear about your stuff at home. That's your stuff, and you got to deal with it. Yeah, but that person, I don't know, might have an ailing parent who's passing away, and maybe they were holding their hand last night at their bedside. I want to know that as a human being. I want to know that because I think business gets this wrong so often. It's like this trade of time because we're unclear on the outputs that we need from people to create a positive return on investment. So instead of just saying, hey, Keith, you need to do 5 widgets today, I don't care when you do it. I don't care how you do it. And if you do 7, I can pay you a little bit more to do that. But instead, we're unclear. So we say, Keith, sit in that chair for 40 hours a week and I'll pay you X number of dollars. And I think that's a real mistake in today's day and age. You can be anywhere, to your point earlier. Work is something you do, it used to be a place that you go. And to me, that is a very critical distinction that we need to make in today's day and age. Right? I don't People go to work. I used to go to work. Now I work.
Mhm.
And I think for Christopher Lochhead has talked about this digital natives versus native analogs. We're native analogs, even though I was as technology forward. I'm grateful for my parents to get me a Commodore 64 when I was 7 years old. But my kids, they grew up with this phone in their hand, and they're always going to have technology at their fingertips at all times. And so they have experienced the world differently. They're going to experience it differently than us, which again comes back to that emotional awareness and mental health. You used to not talk about mental health. Today, it's perfectly okay to talk about mental health.
Mhm.
And I encourage it because, again, we're better together.
I'm very fortunate to talk to people like yourself every single day here in the lab. Now I got these 2 shows. I'm talking to people daily. And I'm going to tell you something that strikes me. Out of all these folks that I keep meeting, is that as the world continues to talk about, embrace, and have these AI tools thrown at us,
Mhm.
there's this emerging trend, desire, need, pivot to be even more human, it appears to me. I am
100%.
I am talking to more people than ever I have in my entire life, and this theme, this red thread, is what's happening right now. This human conversation, this engagement, and it's there seems to be this need for this, Jerry.
I agree with you. In fact, I had one of my CEOs in from Vietnam this past weekend, and we were walking the beach and we were talking. And in an age where trust is going to be really hard, because there was a company that had a deep fake, told one of its senior accounting people to wire transfer based around this secret transaction, and literally had a Zoom call where the CFO instructed the person to do it. They have it as a recording, and it was 13 wire transfers. They lost $25 million. When you don't know what's real and what's showing up in front of you looks real, it's a deep fake. Person's there. There were other executives on the call, on the Zoom call. It all looked real until the person who was doing it was like, this just doesn't feel right, and raised the flag. And it was like, oh no, this is a problem. And I think community, you've seen this over the last number of years, but getting to community is what it's going to be all about. And to me, I think the rise of things like trade shows, which used to be old school marketing, you're going to see people wanting to be face to face. Keith is real. And when I think about how to get to community, Pablo Gonzalez, a great friend of mine, super smart thinker, we were talking about community. And community comes out of vulnerability, which creates connection, and connection creates the community. And so people being real and authentic, I think that's going to be really important, because as many people have Facebooked every part of their life where everything is perfect and everything is amazing and my kids are getting straight A's in school and just all of those things, the reality of it is, like, we might be struggling behind closed doors. We got to have those conversations. And for me, I was reminded of this, Keith, in November. So one of my friends committed suicide. And when people had reached out to me and said, oh, you know what, a great guy, I can't believe that happened. Hadn't really spoken to him in a year. Right. And I look back at my text messages and I hadn't spoken to him in a year. And I've married 18 of my friends and family. This was the first guy that I married. And at one point in time, we were super tight. And so that authentic relationship, the authentic relationship that is required, he had purposely distanced himself from community. It was no surprise to me that every person I talked to said, great guy, I can't believe that happened. Hadn't really spoken to him in name the time frame. And so when you think about social media and AI and the rise of all of these things, what is really important is the nature of we're better together. And we have to be better together. And I'll tell you what, guys suck at this, Keith. Us having real conversations about things that we're struggling with. I was laughing because guys will go to the bar and they'll watch a game and they'll high five, and you'll come home and your wife will say, how's Keith? You'll say, he seemed pretty good. It's like, well, his mom just died. Oh, just didn't come up. We didn't talk about it. And I think that's something that guys need to do better at in this space of creating connection and authenticity, because man, it's so easy to get lost in the shuffle. And now that remote work is here, or hybrid work, it's going to be easy to hide behind screens. It's going to be easy to hide behind AI. And coming back to it, I think the point is connections are going to be more and more critical the more technology drives every aspect of our life.
Yeah, well said, Jerry. And my condolences for the loss of your friend. And I can tell you somebody right now who's tuning in right now, Chris Keach with Shaking Chris. Chris joins me on my morning show, one of my co-hosts, and I can tell you he appreciates your breath of fresh air, your comments, where you're coming from. I've got to know Chris here, an exceptional human being, and again, a young man who's growing up listening to what you and I are speaking about. And I know we'll have the courage to speak the same way and raise his children the same way and continue to change that paradigm, right? And be human. I will tell you, you brought up this whole idea of trust.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole reason I started a live show. Because when I started my live show, whatever it was 8 months ago, this Live in the Lab, and then I started a morning show 60 shows ago. So doing 2 hours live per day was because I was watching the AI onslaught, and it's funny because I live in it, and it's not normal to many people right now, but because they don't know what's coming. I'm reaching back to how you and I grew up with was being a stable face at a stable time in a stable environment and just always showing up. You and I grew up with those trusted, we grew up with the news faces that built that trust, right? You turned on CNN or CBC or whatever, you built trust through talking heads. So I'm doing the same thing with my live shows, but I'm complementing it with Jerry with, I have a complimentary podcast with somebody that here's some humor to weave into this. And his name is Keith. He's my AI version. So I did a 4-minute model of my voice, and every morning I have a 30-minute podcast that drops on news from the lab that it just shows up in your podcast. But I use this to create the human connection, to build trust my audience, and then supplement the media with other content along the way within the ecosystem, right? But I'm with you, man. Community is built on trust. Trust is going to build communities. I do get nervous though, and I wonder, is that we've moved away from macro culture to micro cultures. Are we now going to create a bunch of microculture communities and all be forced to drink the same Kool-Aid? Or are we going to be able to have communities with different points of view, different thoughts, different awareness levels? And then over time again, Jerry, are we just going to weave those micro communities back to a new reimagined macro culture world?
It's a really good question. At least the political landscape of the United States, and you see very diametrically and very polarized points of view. And I certainly hope we can weave the micro communities back together, because at our hearts, we've all loved something, we've all lost something, we've all hated something, and we are more alike than we are different. And if you want to find the differences, you can find them. And if you want to find the similarities, you can find them too. That's why your attitude and your approach matter so much. And I do see micro communities just growing and growing, whether it's the Dave Gerhardt's Exit 5 B2B marketers community does a great job. There's sales communities, there are all of these things, but I just wonder what it looks like, and if people are able to put down their egos and their want to be right over their want to understand and be curious.
I'll throw this at you, Jerry, as we were, of course, wrapping our conversation. And thank you, by the way. This has been fascinating. I didn't know where this was going to go, but this has been a lot of fun for me.
Me too.
I'll make a prediction with you, Jerry, right now that I think the next time we're going to see a macro cultural moment in the world, frankly, and perhaps is when, and I'm being serious with what I'm going to say next.
Okay.
Many are going to think, fuck, is this guy? But I'm going to be very serious with what I say next, because I pride myself on being able to at least. I think I do a really good job seeing forward. I'm a nerd. I read a lot of forward stuff. So the next macro cultural moment will happen when robots arrive. Because Westworld is here. All the parts are there. Henry Ford just hasn't come together to put them all together for us to weave into our lives. But we're seeing the pieces, right? So that takes hardware and software. 3 weeks ago, we were introduced to GPT-4 Omni. Right. The moment that arrives, it's going to become part of my morning show. I got my iPad set up. It's got the vision on. And it becomes part of the show. So now you might have my iPad as this robot. Next thing, this Christmas or next Christmas, there's going to be a Christmas in the near future where somebody's going to create a consumer electronics device, which is going to be Omni on a physical device, and we're all going to start buying them. Yep. And then I think macro culturally, we're going to have this moment along the way, Jerry, where it's going to be the humans versus the machines. And not in the Avengers, Tony Stark type way, but methodologies, theories, thought processes, because I'm seeing the world becoming very human very fast these days, very analog, frankly. I'm seeing my 17-year-old, 14-year-old kid being more analog than I am. And I don't know if you know this, there's been some stats. I wish I had them up because I was going to talk about them this morning. My kids and your kids have no interest in AI.
I saw that. The adoption of younger kids, only 8% of them use it every day.
Yeah. So you and I are rushing to use it because we're trying to stay relevant. So think about that gap, right? We're trying to be, and we're saying to our kids, they're looking at us, no, man, I just want to go, I want to go and get a CD. I want to go buy a cassette. I want to go buy a vinyl record. Oh, so I think we're seeing, we both know, Jerry, we've been around long enough. Society is not linear, it's cyclical. So I think the next macro cultural revolution is robots. And then the third one is, and people can laugh at me on this one, is Martians. When we all have to deal with the fact that the human species has procreated with somebody living on Mars, and now we actually have Martians, because that's going to happen as well. That we can't debate that. Those to me are a couple of big macro cultural moments that are happening over the next, whatever it is, probably maybe 30 years, 40 years, perhaps while you and I are still around. But that to me are the future.
Yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball. I do know that there are inflection points that bring cultures back together. Wars are a good example of that happening and have been started to kickstart economies and bring people back together. Yeah,
I could argue we're at war right now. We just haven't seen the. We got an election around the corner. It seems when elections show up, the hawks show up. I get no judgment. No, I bring no judgment to the lab. See, listen, I always say this, Jerry. I wear a red hat, I wear a red shirt, but I wear blue underwear. So I got points of views, and I'm a business guy. I'm a business guy, Jerry. So I think we can talk about all that we want, but but here's the thing: what's most for me? I'm a human, and I love humans, love celebrating them, and I welcome every human's point of view. That to me is ultimately what has been lost.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think staying curious, being a lifelong learner, is one of the greatest gifts that Mother Nature gave me, and I love to learn. I love to say, how did you come to that point of view? That's different than I've ever thought about it. And not to be like, so one of the things that I reinforce with my kids is when they try food, they're not allowed to say it's weird or it's gross. Because no one's invited their judgment, right? What they say is, it's just not for me, Dad. And so trying to get to that place of, it might be right for someone else, and that's cool. Celebrate that level of curiosity. As long as we maintain that, I think good things are possible. It's when we get to beliefs that learning stops. And I think that's a really critical piece for me, because the times that I've gotten myself most in trouble is when I held something to be true without staying curious about it.
Yeah. Jerry MacNamara, thanks for joining me today for a fantastic conversation. Be honest, I haven't given you any time to plug anything you're talking about or selling or promoting. Is there anything you want to make sure that Business Athlete Nation knows about, other than, I think probably what you want to have most important is that you're a human, you're humans first, and you're about making sure that we shine the light on who that human being really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a core foundational belief is love, but another one is, if you become financially wealthy and emotionally bankrupt, you lost the game of life.
Yeah.
And so the whole notion of that conscious intention is so critical to living what I think is the highest purpose, is a fulfilled life, your life on your terms. So if you want to go do different stuff than me, awesome. Let's go do it. And we can celebrate people along the way in doing that. Yeah, I didn't come here really to plug things. Yeah, I run a company, but I think if people get challenged in their thinking and their approach of how they lead and how they show up, not only for themselves, but all the people around them, their family, that is a major goal for me.
That's awesome. Jerry MacNamara, thanks for joining me in the lab today, live and live. A little bit technical difficulties in the beginning, but we got it all sorted out.
We are resilient. Resilient,
my friend. So listen, I'm going to invite you back into the green room for a quick second. I am going to say, hey, Chris, thanks for tuning in. Maria, thanks for tuning in. And the rest of you in Business Athlete Nation who tuned in, just didn't comment. You can like us. You can leave some comments along the way, but we appreciate the support along the way. Hey, listen, tomorrow mornings in the lab, myself and the crew, more topics to digest. But Jerry, go hang out in the green room. We'll come back, walk you out. Okay, one sec. All right. So Jerry MacNamara, great conversation, really human conversation today, which I just love, those ones that you just never know what's going to come along the way. As I said, we have mornings in the lab tomorrow, and let's get some tunes to walk me out. There we go. Just walk out nice and pleasantly. End of the show. You're tuning in. Check out the whole episode. First half hour, we really dug into Jerry's experience with his kids and his wife. 190 some odd days together, traveling America. Imagine that. What would you do hanging out with your kids for 190 some odd days. I think he should be on the show back with on Friday with myself and Di Manuel. 2 dads in the lab trying to be 2% better. The challenge is that whole experience. That's a whole other conversation. And then the second half of the show, we dug into this idea of being human and the value of being human more than ever. And I know it sounds so cliche, but it's the more people I talk to, the more that reality is coming true to me, that we're all desiring that connection. So I invite you to connect with myself, Christopher Martin, C. Marty Fit, and Chris Keach, Mornings in the Lab, right here on this channel, the Mornings in the Lab channel, LinkedIn, X. You find us 8 o'clock Eastern time, Monday to Friday. All right, I'm going to go walk Jerry out of the lab, and we'll see you guys in the morning.